how did you guys get into the
Well,
storage?
Anderson, actually, for 15 or 20 years, I was a top-ranked international male escort. Before I...
They were the faces that made Storage Wars a global phenomenon. From Barry Weiss, the eccentric collector, to Brandy and Jared, the fiery couple always chasing the dream. Each character brought something unforgettable. But one by one, the stars began to disappear. Why did the main characters of Storage Wars really leave? The truth behind their exits is more shocking and heartbreaking than you think. When Storage Wars premiered in 2010, no one expected a simple show about abandoned storage lockers to become a worldwide hit. But it wasn't just about dusty boxes and hidden treasures. It was about the people who fought for them. Dave Hester with his infamous Yoop. Barry Weiss with his flashy cars and eccentric humor. Daryl Sheets chasing million-dollar finds. And the young duo of Brandi and Jarrod Schultz, balancing family and ambition. Each cast member became a household name. But fame has a price. As the seasons rolled on, drama behind the scenes, financial struggles, health scares, and personal tragedies began to pull these stars away from the cameras. Their departures weren't random. Each exit had a story, a reason that revealed the darker side of reality television fame. So what really happened to the stars who left Storage Wars? Let's start with the most unforgettable character of them all, Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss wasn't like the other buyers. While his co-stars fought tooth and nail over lockers, Barry treated every auction like a joyride. He didn't need the money. He was already wealthy from decades of running a successful produce business. For him, Storage Wars was about curiosity, about finding the odd and unusual, about making fans laugh. His wild entrances, pulling up in rare vintage cars or motorcycles, made him a fan favorite. Audiences loved that he wasn't desperate for profit. He was just there for the adventure. But that same carefree attitude became the reason for his exit. Barry grew tired of the grind of filming, the constant pressure to perform, and the loss of spontaneity. What started as fun began to feel like work. By season 4, he made the decision to walk away. Fans were devastated, and though he briefly returned in spin-offs like Buried Treasure and Barry Strikes Back, it was never the same. Barry had no desire to be tied down to long filming schedules again. But Barry's story raises a bigger question. If the most beloved character of Storage Wars could leave at the height of his fame, what would stop others from following? Dave Hester. If Barry Weiss was the heart of Storage Wars, Dave Hester was its villain. Known for his trademark yup and aggressive bidding style, Dave thrived on conflict. He clashed with nearly every cast member, and his cutthroat personality made him the man fans love to hate. But behind the scenes, Dave's drama went far beyond the auctions. In 2012, he was fired from the show after butting heads with producers. Dave claimed the show was rigged, accusing producers of planting valuable items in storage lockers to boost ratings. He even filed a lawsuit, blowing the lid off reality TV's darker secrets. Though he eventually returned in later seasons, Dave's reputation, both with fans and behind the scenes, never fully recovered. His willingness to challenge the producers may have earned him brief notoriety, but it also ensured his days as a mainstay of the show were numbered. His story revealed a harsh truth. Storage Wars wasn't just about the treasures in the lockers. It was also about the battles happening off-camera, where egos and contracts carried just as much weight as any auction bid. But if Dave's exit was about conflict, another fan-favorite duo left for reasons far more personal. Brandi and Jared. For many fans, Brandi and Jarrod Schultz were the soul of Storage Wars. They weren't seasoned millionaires like Barry Weiss or hardened veterans like Daryl Sheets. They were the young guns, the underdogs who built their dream in front of millions of viewers. Their chemistry was irresistible. Brandy, cautious and sharp-eyed, was the voice of reason. Jarrod, brash and impulsive, was always ready to take a risk. Their constant back and forth, her scolding him for reckless bids, his cheeky grin when he thought he'd scored, gave the show humor and relatability. But behind the laughs, their relationship was crumbling. Fame amplified their differences. Brandy wanted stability and security for their family, while Jarrod thrived on chaos and high-risk gambles. Running their thrift stores, raising 2 children, and managing TV fame proved to be more than their partnership could handle. By the late 2010s, whispers began circulating that the couple had split. Their absence together at public events only fueled speculation. The truth finally came out when Brandy confirmed it publicly. The young guns had quietly separated after nearly 2 decades together. Their breakup was devastating for fans, but it also made Jarrod's future on Storage Wars nearly impossible. Their dynamic had been the brand. Without Brandy, Jarrod lost his balance. Without Jarrod, Brandy had to reinvent herself. Brandy remained in the spotlight, carving out her own identity and earning respect as a solo figure on the show. Jarrod, however, struggled with personal and legal issues that pushed him further from the cameras. Their story revealed another truth about reality TV. Partnerships that look fun and lighthearted on screen often hide the weight of real struggles off-screen. And when those partnerships collapse, entire careers collapse with them. But Brandy and Jared weren't the only ones forced off the stage by life's heavy blows. For Daryl Sheets, the man known as the Gambler, the swamp of fame, fortune, and health caught up with him too. Daryl Sheets. Daryl Sheets earned his nickname the Gambler for a reason. He wasn't afraid to throw down big money on storage lockers others wouldn't touch. Sometimes it burned him. Other times it paid off in ways fans still talk about. Like the time he uncovered a locker filled with art, valued at over $500,000. Daryl's aggressive style, gruff personality, and occasional softer moments with his son Brandon made him a central figure of the show. He wasn't just a bidder, he was a storyteller, always talking about the thrill of risk and reward. But Daryl's time on Storage Wars took its toll. Years of stress, physical labor, and the ups and downs of auction life began to wear on him. Then came the health scares. In 2019, Daryl revealed he had suffered a serious heart attack that nearly killed him. He was forced to undergo emergency surgery, and doctors warned him that his days of pushing himself to extremes were over. For fans, the news was shocking. Daryl, the tough-as-nails gambler, had always seemed indestructible. Suddenly, the reality of age and health hit hard. He stepped away from the show to recover, and while he later reappeared in guest spots, it was clear that his role would never be the same. Adding to the heartbreak, Daryl faced personal struggles as well, including the loss of relationships and the emotional toll of nearly losing his life. His story reminded viewers that the people they watched weren't just characters. They were real people with fragile bodies and fragile hearts. And as Daryl fought to survive, fans began to notice another familiar face fading from the screen. His son, Brandon Sheets. But why did Brandon disappear from Storage Wars just as his stars seemed to be rising? Brandon Sheets. When Daryl Sheets became a household name on Storage Wars, his son Brandon often stood right beside him. Fans loved seeing the father-son duo work together. Brandon, young and ambitious, was the apprentice, learning the tricks of the trade under his father's watchful eye. Their banter gave the show an added layer of charm. Daryl's experience versus Brandon's eagerness. But as the seasons went on, Brandon's role grew smaller. By 2017, he was nowhere to be seen on the show, and fans were left asking, what happened to Daryl's son? The truth was simple but sad. Brandon was let go due to budget cuts. As Storage Wars matured, the network shifted focus to its biggest personalities. For producers, Brandon was expendable, and his exit was framed as a financial decision rather than a creative one. For Brandon, it was a tough blow. He had spent years building his presence alongside his father, only to be sidelined by the business realities of television. After leaving the show, Brandon moved on to pursue a more traditional career. He found work in sales and real estate, far from the auction spotlight. On social media, he made it clear he had no bitterness, but also no intention of returning. Brandon's quiet exit served as a reminder that reality TV is, at its core, still a business. Cast members aren't just people, they're investments. And when the budget shrinks, even family ties can't protect you. But while Brandon's departure was quiet, another cast member's exit was fiery and sudden. Fans still remember the impact of Liz Cavalier, better known as the Gator Queen. Liz Cavalier. Liz Cavalier, nicknamed the Gator Queen, brought a completely different energy to Storage Wars. Strong, outspoken, and fearless, she immediately captured fans' attention. Liz wasn't intimidated by the men in the room. She knew her worth, and she wasn't afraid to speak her mind. Her boldness made her stand out, but it also made her a lightning rod for controversy. Some fans loved her fire, others criticized her attitude. Producers, always chasing drama, leaned into her personality, but it soon became clear that Liz wasn't a long-term fit for the show's vision. After a short run, Liz was quietly dropped from the main cast. The official explanation was never fully spelled out, but many believe her clashes with producers and fellow cast members played a role. Reality TV thrives on tension, but when tension turns into conflict behind the scenes, producers often make quick decisions. For Liz, leaving Storage Wars wasn't the end. She continued working in the resale business, leveraging her brief fame to connect with fans and build her personal brand. But her story highlighted the cutthroat nature of reality TV. Popularity isn't always enough to secure a permanent place. Her sudden departure left fans asking if someone as fiery and entertaining as Liz could vanish so quickly. What did that say about the future of other cast members? Kenny Crossley. If Barry Weiss was the eccentric adventurer of Storage Wars, Kenny Crossley was the comic relief. With his larger-than-life personality, booming laugh, and quick one-liners, Kenny had a way of lightening even the most tense auctions. He wasn't just there to make bids. He was there to make people smile. Kenny's backstory made him relatable. Before his time on Storage Wars, he worked in law enforcement and later managed a storage facility. That's how he became connected to the world of auctions in the first place. His blend of street smarts and humor gave him a unique presence that audiences loved. But despite his popularity, Kenny's role in the show shifted over time. Unlike figures such as Daryl or Dave Hester, Kenny wasn't portrayed as a power player. Instead, he was cast as the fun sidekick, a man who was there for laughs more than for profits. For Kenny, that was both a blessing and a curse. Eventually, Kenny stepped back from Storage Wars. It wasn't a dramatic exit filled with lawsuits or scandals. Instead, it was simply a shift in focus. He began pouring more energy into other pursuits, including his passion for music and his business ventures. Kenny dabbled in DJing, promoted his own line of snacks, and continued to engage with fans on social media. For viewers, his departure was bittersweet. Kenny reminded audiences that auctions didn't have to be cutthroat. They could be fun. Without him, the show felt a little more serious, a little less lighthearted. And yet, his story was different from so many others. Kenny didn't leave because of scandal or heartbreak. He left because he wanted to explore new opportunities. But not every cast member had the luxury of leaving on their own terms. For Renee and Casey Nezoda, their step back was driven by the pressures of balancing fame, family, and business. Renee and Casey Nezoda. When Renee and Casey Nezoda joined Storage Wars, they immediately shook things up. Known as the German and his wife, this duo brought intensity, expertise, and a knack for spotting value where others saw junk. Renee's sharp eye and booming personality, paired with Casey's level-headed approach, made them a power couple in the auction world. Renee quickly gained a reputation as a serious competitor. He wasn't afraid to throw down big money if he believed a locker was worth the gamble. Casey, on the other hand, often played the balancing role, grounding her husband's boldness with logic and practicality. Together, they ran Bargain Hunter's thrift store in San Diego, which became an extension of their Storage Wars fame. But as the seasons progressed, the Nezodas began to step back from the show. Unlike Barry or Brandy and Jared, their exit wasn't tied to scandal or heartbreak. Instead, it was about priorities. Running a large thrift store demanded time, energy, and focus. The grind of filming schedules and long hours on set clashed with their real-world responsibilities. The couple also faced the challenge of raising a family. Reality TV fame might bring recognition, but it doesn't pause the demands of parenthood. For Renee and Casey, the decision to step away was about balance. They chose to prioritize stability and family life over the chaos of constant filming. Still, they never fully disappeared. The Nezodas have remained active in the resale community, and they've occasionally popped up in later seasons and specials. Fans appreciate their authenticity. They weren't on the show for drama, but for the love of the hunt. But their quieter role raised another question. If even the stable, drama-free couples were stepping back, what did that mean for the future of Storage Wars as a whole? Ivy Calvin. Ivy Calvin burst onto the Storage Wars scene with a no-nonsense approach and the memorable nickname, the King of Palmdale. A former MMA fighter and arena football player, Ivy brought physical intensity and a competitive spirit that made him stand out from the rest of the cast. His thrift store, Grandma's Attic, became his domain, a place where the treasures he won at auction were flipped into profit. Ivy's style was straightforward. He didn't waste time with flashy entrances or dramatic rivalries. He was there to win, to make money, and to provide for his family. Fans respected his grit and his steady presence, and soon Ivy became a reliable favorite. But as time went on, Ivy began to shift his priorities. While he remained a part of the show longer than many of his co-stars, he reduced his appearances in later seasons. The demands of filming, combined with the responsibilities of running his business and being present for his children, led him to scale back. For Ivy, it wasn't about burnout or scandal, it was about choosing where to put his energy. In interviews and appearances, he's spoken about his love for the auction world, but also about his dedication to family life. For the King of Palmdale, it was a matter of ruling his own kingdom, not just one created for television. Ivy's quieter role raised an important reality. Even those who thrive in the spotlight eventually want to pull back and protect what matters most. By the late 2000s, Storage Wars looked very different from the show that had debuted in 2010. Many of the original stars were gone, their exits shaped by conflict, heartbreak, health, or simply the choice to walk away. Newer cast members were brought in, but for many fans, the magic wasn't the same. Reality television is built on characters, and Storage Wars had some of the most memorable in the business. Barry Weiss, the eccentric; Dave Hester, the villain; Brandi and Jared, the couple you rooted for; Daryl and Brandon Sheets, the gamblers. As each of these stars faded from the screen, the show's identity shifted. Some fans embraced the new blood. Others longed for the old faces, the familiar dynamics, the sense of authenticity that had made the early seasons so addictive. Without the main cast, Storage Wars became just another auction show. The departures also revealed something larger: the toll of reality TV. Behind the laughter and the thrill of treasure hunting were broken relationships, financial struggles, health scares, and careers derailed by the pressures of fame. The characters audiences fell in love with weren't actors playing roles. They were real people living real lives, and those lives didn't always fit neatly into a television schedule. And so, one by one, the stars left. Not because they didn't love the auctions, but because they needed to reclaim their lives. The departures of Storage Wars' main characters weren't accidents. Each exit carried a story. Barry Weiss walking away because the fun was gone, Hester forced out after clashing with producers, Brandy and Jared torn apart by personal struggles, Daryl sidelined by health, Brandon cut due to budgets, Liz Cavalier dropped after clashing with the system, and others stepping back to protect their families and priorities. Together, their stories reveal a truth about reality television that fans rarely see. The cost of fame is high. Behind the catchphrases and the big finds were people balancing real struggles, and for many, leaving was the only way to find peace again. And yet, their legacies endure. Fans still remember Barry's wild cars, Dave's infamous yup, Brandy and Jared's fiery banter, Daryl's massive art haul, and Ivy's unshakable grit. These stars made Storage Wars more than a show about abandoned lockers. They made it a cultural phenomenon. So, what do you think? Did the departures of these main characters mark the end of Storage Wars' golden era? Or was the show always destined to evolve? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the untold stories of your favorite stars. Because in the end, the real treasures of Storage Wars weren't just in the lockers. They were in the unforgettable people who dared to open them.